interview with Lee Thomas here at the moment. Doing a bit of an on-location interview. This is the first on-location interview we've done. Lee is founder of the Welsh Mutual UFO Network. Is that right?
Welsh UFO Research Network.
Welsh UFO. That's a bit of a mouthful. So Lee is going to be here to answer some of your questions or a general discussion and chat about the subject of UFOs. How are you doing, Lee?
I'm fine, thank you, Jared.
Good. So how did you get into researching UFOs, and what exactly did you WUFORN do?
Well, I started getting into the subject when I saw the TV show called Sightings.
Right.
Which was on Sky One back in the early 90s, I believe.
I remember that show. It was a brilliant show, wasn't it?
It was. Never been anything quite like Sightings, I don't think.
Strange but True was good, mind. I used to like Strange but True, but no, Sightings was good.
I think it's probably one of the first Sightings, wasn't it, that type of show?
They don't do reconstructions like they used to, do they?
No, not at all. So yeah, that what got me into the subject. I was absolutely fascinated with the stories on there. Of course, then shows like Strange but True come along. And then I joined a group then when I was a teenager called the Global UFO Research Network.
Alright.
Something like, well, it might not precisely call that, but it was global for short. And basically I started investigating from the age of about 14.
How did you join the group?
It was advertised in a UFO magazine.
Alright.
I can't remember whether it was actually Alien Encounters or UFO magazine. There's a few different magazines back in the day.
I remember Encounters.
Yeah?
Yeah, Alien Encounters. I used to buy that as well.
Yeah. That's the original one I was buying, and then when that stopped, I found the UFO magazine. I not too sure which one it was in, but they were advertising for investigators.
Alright.
So I basically picked up the phone and gave them a ring.
So what was the first sort of investigation you done with them then?
Not so much at the time, because I was only 14 years old, so I was basically passing on the information to the head office, and they got the old investigators around the area to investigate for me.
Alright, excellent.
I couldn't really get to the locations at the time.
Yeah. So what happened, how did you go from that to where you are now then?
Well, once I got a bit older, I wanted to do a bit more research on my own. I joined another group then called the Bradford UFO Group. I was with them till I moved down to Cornwall. This group just stopped, just broke up. A lot of groups really disappeared in the late 1999, 2000, basically after the X-Files finished. I think interest in the subject kind of waned back then. So a lot of groups just closed down, and there was no groups in Wales. So a couple of years ago, I decided to start my own group. And
is it just yourself, or is it a couple of people that investigate?
I got other members of the group which goes out on investigations. But at the moment, it's trying to get the word out to show the group exists. So if there's any sightings, report them to us. I mean, I pick up a lot of stuff from basically on the internet. People tend to go to the internet these days. If they type in UFOs, first thing that comes up, they'll just go to that site and post their sighting. So I go through all those, try and pick up things that's local to us, and go from there. But I've had a few people email me myself. Actually, one a couple of days ago. This person based in London.
Right.
And they saw a UFO not far from a London airport. She haven't told me which airport yet. I'll have to do a follow-up on that. And they sent a photograph as well.
That's how we actually got in contact with you, wasn't it? Last year when we were going through those who've sort of seen our YouTube channel, who've watched the videos, we actually had a bit of a experience last year which we couldn't tell whether it was an encounter or a spiritual encounter or whatever it was, but I think that's how we contacted you, wasn't it? It was. So have you actually seen like a UFO yourself?
I've seen a few. Trying to think the first one I saw. I think the first one I saw is I was in Spain on holiday.
Right.
I was walking on the beach with my parents. I always look at the stars. I always have looking up, and there was two red lights in the sky, and I was just watching them. It wasn't moving at the time. They just shot off. That was the first UFO I saw. The second UFO I saw, I was I must have been about 13, 14 years old. I was doing milk round on the weekends with my cousin. We was down Bedwas in Caerphilly. 3 triangular lights would come over the mountain. I assumed at the time it was an airplane, but it just turned on the spot and went the other way. It literally just turned and then went back the other way. There's no way a plane could have done that.
No.
There was no noise. That time of the morning, it would have been about 3 o'clock. You heard everything.
Yeah.
No noise whatsoever.
So obviously, do you do sort of sky watches and that sort of thing as well then?
Yes, I try to do a sky watch each month. Say every 4 weeks, depending on the weather. Different locations around here, Caerphilly. I try to go around different places around South Wales.
Excellent. Do you take any equipment with you, or
camcorders and lasers?
Camcorders and lasers.
Yes, lasers to try and communicate on a torch. Obviously, because it's pitch black up the mountains. Obviously the camcorder as well as cameras. Yeah. So take pictures and record any sightings.
Excellent.
But as of yet, I haven't picked anything up.
Well, I don't know. Perhaps we'll have to organise a sky watch or something at some point. Yeah. It is. So, what sort of things or what sort of cases have people sort of come at you or come to you with then?
Most of them tends to be lights in the sky.
Yeah.
A lot of them can be explained. A lot of Chinese lanterns. You will not believe the amount of reports I get for Chinese lanterns. People aren't used. I suppose they're more common now, but people are still not used to seeing them.
It'd be interesting to get like a little video, make a Chinese lantern and put it up in the sky so people know what it looks like.
Yeah.
If I save you a lot of work.
We get so many here. I mean, quite often I look out the window and I see them going past here all the time.
Well, people just make them for fun and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember,
I got some in the house, to be honest.
I think we made some for some work that we did a little while for a job, my previous job. I think we did it for the local children. We did like a little class or something how to make them and that sort of thing. So, have you sort of had anyone that has ever sort of had an encounter, obviously, or have gone through? What sort of encounters could people sort of contact you about then?
Well, UFO sightings. Of course, you got people see lights in the sky, and you got contact, which you could maybe flash a light at the craft, and it might communicate back to you. And of course, then you got the abductions. Couple of people have reported abductions to me, but I've not had a chance to investigate those. One apart from obviously
the one that we spoke about and Sam's experience.
Yeah.
What's sort of like your interpretation on that sort of experience that we had then? Because it was more astral than it was actually physical, as far as we could tell.
Now it's hard really because of your backgrounds, be mediums.
Right.
So I don't know how to interpret what you have seen. There are encounters which are astral.
Right.
Certainly it is well documented. But basically what I would be looking for is physical evidence.
Right. So what types of physical evidence could we try and collect then?
Okay, marks on the body,
right.
Bruises, scars, things that appear overnight that wasn't there before. That tends to be the physical evidence you get from abduction. Obviously, implants.
Yeah.
Which is a well-known researcher, Dr. Lee in the USA. He operates and takes out these implants.
I've heard about him.
Shane, he's recently passed over. So.
Yeah, has he?
Yeah.
I've seen quite a few like little bits and pieces about him on the internet and stuff. So.
And these are very interesting. I mean. We've done analysis on these objects, and quite a few times now they've come back saying that the makeup of these objects have been what they would get from a meteorite. So it's very, very interesting. a lot, they've not found, I'm not aware of them finding any material that's not found on Earth. But the makeup of it seems to be from what you get from a meteorite. They've also can't explain that some of the membrane they got around some of these objects, which stop the body from rejecting it.
So, is there like a mainstream sort of scientific approach to sort of explaining some of the things that this doctor's... What was his name again? Sorry.
Leah.
Dr. Leah. Is there any sort of mainstream people sort of looking at the sort of things that he's found, or has there been any explanation sort of offered?
There's always explanations offered. Like when people say there's nothing that's been found that's not found on this Earth, that's the problem. If you found something in these implants that's not originated from Earth, then you've got some proper proof there. But when these these metallic objects made up of materials you can find here, it's easily explainable. Yeah. You could have had an accident as a child, you could have cut yourself, something that got into you. And the body's a marvellous thing, it does, you can have foreign objects in your body that's not rejected. Yeah.
It's very, very strange because everything, just I don't know a lot about sort of this subject, but wouldn't you think that because everything in the universe is made up of the same materials anyway, anything sort of found, say if it is from like another planet or whatever, or another race, wouldn't the materials they use actually be of this Earth, or very similar?
They would be on this Earth, but it would be good to find an alloy that we do not use,
or something that's made up of something that's... I heard something very very interesting about do you know the Rendlesham Forest case?
Yes.
Now, haven't they sort of come out recently and said something about a code or something that they actually released and decoded a code that they picked up from the UFO that they had in Rendlesham?
Right, basically, the gentleman in question, he said he touched the craft, right, and he got information from touching this craft, and this information has come out through him over time. Right. But the only problem I have with that is this wasn't mentioned at the time. This is more recent stuff, so
it could possibly be people trying. Do you find that with a lot with the sort of community, people bend the truth a little to squeeze a bit more money out of it?
Oh, definitely, of course, yes.
Yeah, I think you find that in all sort of paranormal communities, don't you?
Yes, definitely. That's the thing. See, back when this came out, God, I think this was actually on sightings originally. There was no information on that at all. Basically, what was released was that the tape recording of the encounter, but it happened on more than one night. Yes, they said they touched the craft, but they never mentioned anything about this information.
How was he proposed he was getting the information? Was it psychically, or was it...
I'm not too sure, to be honest, Jared.
I'll look into that, cause, but as you said, it's like people sort of adapting their story over time. That's kind of why when we were having our experience, I tried to document as much as I could. And whenever we've had a paranormal encounter, or we do sort of any sort of paranormal work, we try and document actually what's happening at the time, even if it's just the fact that we've just had an experience. We switch the old microphone on or the camcorder on and say blah blah blah, we've just had this experience, so that it's fresh in our minds.
That's right.
Because the mind has an awful way as well of confabulating evidence. Things are remembered out of order, the way they happen, things are remembered in different... And I suppose that's very tough when, as I know, obviously, with the experience that we've been through, it can be quite traumatic. Yeah. And obviously, so what's the sort of procedure if someone sort of came at you saying, Lee, I've had an abduction encounter, then, for example, what sort of procedure would you go through in order to sort of help put that person at ease?
Well, I have not got a great deal of dealings with abductions. I mean, right. Yes, I've read up a lot of them. You're the first case I've taken on, really, because the two other people, they started writing, but then they didn't want to go any further, which is fine. People are scared.
Definitely. It's a huge step outside the box, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, I would go and speak to them like I did with yourself, get a bit of background information, and if I thought it was something to it, I would pass them on to a well-known abduction researcher for the Birmingham UFO group, which the gentleman who runs that specialises in abductions. Now they've also got a support group as well. See, which so that would be the best place to go.
But other people that have actually experienced the same. I suppose that's the good thing, and even coming this from like growing up as a child, sort of having sort of spiritual contact then with things. It's good to actually know other people are going through the same thing as you,
exactly.
Because you feel like you're going crazy.
Well, of course.
You actually feel like you're going, absolutely mental, where you're staring at something. For my person, I can't speak for Sam, but I know that she finds it very difficult because there's so many parts of it that don't make sense.
Yeah.
Do you kind of find that often? There's a lot of bits and pieces to it that don't make sense.
Well, of course. But you're dealing with something that's literally out of this world.
Yeah.
Literally,
Yeah.
So you're not brought up believing these things.
No.
So you're going to question yourself.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick short break, alright? I'm going to just make sure the footage is okay and coming out alright, just before we go any further. So we're going to take a quick short break, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about, if you don't mind, like types of aliens, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So welcome back to part 2. I'm here sitting with Lee Thomas, if you're just tuning in, from the Welsh UFO Research Network. We're discussing UFO sightings, experiences, and the different things that people have encountered or have reported encountering going through a UFO or UFO encounter then, I guess. So what types of, when people sort of go through this experience then, or if someone listening now has actually gone through, like, let's go through them each by each. Say if they've gone through like a UFO, how can they tell something is a UFO then?
Well, basically anything in the sky that you can't identify as a UFO.
Literal translation,
yes,
I guess.
Literally. If you see something, you can't explain it, it's a UFO.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying UFOs are alien spacecrafts. I'm not saying what they are.
Yeah.
Because that's, it's unidentified.
Yeah. So obviously, why do people contact you then? Is it because, they're changed by the experience, or is it literally just to sort of report it, or why should someone?
Most people are just reporting they've had an odd experience, and they just want a second opinion on what they saw. Like that airport when they just sent me a photograph.
Yeah.
On the photograph, you can just see some pylons in the background, and it was 3 lights, green and red. Now, first thing that jumps to my mind, it's near an airport.
Yeah.
Planes have green and red lights.
Yeah.
It was a bit blurry. When a camera is not in focus, the light's enhanced. So those green and red lights could just be the lights of the aircraft.
Yeah.
And, of course, the lights are bright. There was quite dim background. Those lights would basically take over the image, so you wouldn't see necessarily the aircraft. It would just be merged into the blurriness of the background.
So a lot of how much of these experiences could be debunked then?
Probably 99%.
Yeah.
Really are. I mean, especially around here, like most of them I can really say are Chinese lanterns. I've had one interesting photograph that was sent to me by this lady from Russia.
Right.
She was visiting Wales. She was on a tour of Swansea at the time.
Alright.
And she was on the beach in Gower, and she was taking pictures of the beach. When she got back to Russia and she uploaded her images onto the computer, she noticed a metallic ball in one of the photographs.
Coming out of the sea, or
well, it was over the beach. So you in the picture you had there, I believe it was the sand, the sea, and then a metallic cylinder object in the sky.
Crazy.
Now that's I find that a lot better, because it's not just a light. This is literally it's a metallic object. Can't say what it is, but certainly...
It's more compelling than lights in an airport. Then.
Yes, exactly.
Not, but obviously, do you take into account do you sort of gravitate more to the physical evidence then, than obviously the account of what people have experienced?
Yes. The thing is, you could have 5 different people look at something in the sky, and 5 different people will say 5 different things of what they saw.
Yeah. So you naturally sort of come at each case then with a sort of gravity of suspicion that it's obviously not going to be what the person hoped it would be then.
Yeah, but whatever they see, whatever happens, they've had an experience. So you can't take that away from them. But it's my job then to look at this to see whether this really is unidentified or whether I think I can identify it.
Yeah.
I can't say it's definitely an aircraft, but all I can say is most likely an aircraft, for instance. Right. Or it's probably a Chinese landing. I wasn't there at the time. If it's photographic evidence, I can analyse this photograph and say what I think it is. And if it's unidentified, I'll say it's unidentified. I can't say it's aliens. I can't say it's military. I don't know.
It'd be interesting to have many people actually report experiences around in Rhondda, or is it mostly sort of, has there been any sort of compelling experiences people have come to you with around this area then?
It's basically a lot of people who report throughout the South Wales, from that one from that Russian that took it in Swansea. Someone contacted me from Caerphilly. They saw an orange ball on Caerphilly Mountain. But that happened, I believe it was 1997. They were driving home over the Caerphilly Mountain at night, and they just seen an orange ball just hovering.
We got chased off that mountain once.
Did you?
Yeah, we had a really crazy paranormal experience, and afterwards there was like a marked cars chasing us, so it looked like we were being bloody chased, and it was freaky. It was, so if people have reported sort of abduction experiences, then what sort of stuff have they reported? So obviously, if anyone listening to this has gone through maybe an experience like sort of what we've put up onto YouTube and that sort of thing, what sort of things could they possibly have experienced?
Okay, the classic abduction case is basically they could wake up at night and they can't move. There's often a light coming into the room. They could feel a presence. They could be beings on the side of them. They're taken on board the ship. They're having tests done on them, and then they returned. Other things, they might be driving at night and they see a light in the sky. They pull over. They look at the light. Next thing they know, they're halfway down the road, driving, thinking, how am I driving? I just pulled over back there. When they get home, they've lost some time.
So missing time is a big thing. How sort of accurately then do people see things in the movies then? So how sort of accurate are some of the movie representations of these sort of things? I suppose the reason I ask that is because a lot of people who haven't sort of researched this phenomena, the only interpretation they would have seen would have been something like, what's Encounters of the Fourth Kind, which we know is a hoax.
Yes.
We know that what was the other one? Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton.
Fire in the Sky,
yeah. That was souped up. So what was it? Even the X-Files kind of started off trying to be a bit true to life, and then kind of went a bit, sideways, I suppose, with black oil that can, is there black oil that can control everything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, at least there's one way to get the oil prices to go up, I guess, isn't it?
Yes.
How accurately does sort of the media then, or the portrayal? How accurate is the portrayal of these sorts of things?
Well, everything's always dramatized for the films and TV shows. Things you read in the newspaper, if it was just all mundane, it's not going to sell, is it?
Yeah.
So they do totally exaggerate things. But then saying that, if you look at the Brooklyn Bridge abduction, You've got the traffic come to a standstill on Brooklyn Bridge. People are seeing a craft hovering over an apartment building. The light is shining on the apartment building. The lady is taken out through the window, closed window, with 3 beings with her, taken onto a ship, and then it shoots off.
Is there actually footage of that on YouTube?
I don't think it was actually filmed.
That's a shame.
It would have been brilliant if it was.
That would have been crazy. What have been the most compelling cases then?
Alien abduction.
What have been the most compelling cases then?
Whether it's aliens or whether there's something else that's going on. But to me, there's some good cases. The original abduction case with Betty and Barney Hill. The reason I find that a very good case is because there wasn't alien abductions in the media at the time. They were the first research of the case.
Yeah.
They had the classic missing time. They encountered grey light beings. They even had some physical evidence on Betty's dress.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a good case because it was one of the first. Then you not with that case, you have a coloured man with a white woman. That was frowned upon in America at the time.
Yeah.
They certainly did not want publicity from this because they have enough to deal with by being married.
Yeah.
So there's something they wasn't looking for this to get publicity or to make any money. Travis Walton, you mentioned Fire in the Sky. He went missing, for 5 days.
That was incredible, wasn't it?
All over the news. It was a manhunt because they thought that his colleagues killed him. They had lie detectors. They passed the lie detectors. Then he turned up 5 days later. He passed the lie detector on what happens. So he was not lying. So they definitely saw something. Now, whether what they interpreted was actually an alien abduction, you don't know. But what we do know is what they think they saw, they're not lying about that.
Yeah. I suppose that's the best way to sort of, when I've told people do like paranormal investigations, is to accept the fact that people have had an experience, regardless of whether or not, people believe in the experience or not, or it's scientifically credible or whatever. People have experienced something.
Exactly. That's the way, you got to come to. They've had an experience. A lot of times they are traumatized.
Yeah.
Whether it's aliens, that's a different story. But they definitely had an experience and they need to be dealt with
properly.
Yeah.
They need to be, So, what is the sort of culture in the UK then? You've mentioned different groups and that sort of thing. What is the sort of support culture for people that are actually researching these things, investigate? Because I know obviously in America it's quite prevalent. There's a lot of obviously people looking into it, and there's a lot of hype about it, isn't it, in America?
Oh yeah, certainly.
But what's the sort of culture like in the UK then for people maybe want to get involved in investigating? Perhaps if they want to, but they've had an experience, what can they kind of expect by sort of becoming part of the sort of the culture or community surrounding this? And does that make sense?
Yeah, well, in this country, it's great now for investigating UFOs. A lot more groups are coming together.
Right.
Now, regarding people who claim to be abducted by aliens, that's a different story in this country. In America, there's lots of support for these people. There's lots of group meetings, contactee support. Not so much in this country. I know of one, and that's with the Birmingham UFO group. Right. That's the only one that I know of. It's a lot more. We're a lot more reserved in this country.
Yeah.
We tend not to really believe in this stuff. Yeah. So
it certainly wasn't something I believed in until I had the experience I had. To be honest. When I was about 12, I found it fascinating, like you. But I certainly didn't want to sort of. Then again, it's I can't really say anything for a living. I talk to I talk to spirit. So, I know that there are incredible experiences that I've had since doing this. Had those experiences myself, but you are right. We do tend to be a lot more reserved, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. So I would not like to be an abductee in this country.
No.
Because there's not that much support at all.
Do you find that people actually? Do you think a lot of it is hidden then in this country? Then people don't want to talk about it, so that's why it's not reported.
Yes, certainly. I mean, that's what I've come across. People have contacted me initially. They're great telling you things, via email.
Yeah.
But when you want to meet up with them to discuss things further, they tend to shy away from it. Then
I suppose we find that obviously with the work that we do, is that some people are, even like with having like a spiritual reading or something, people will sort of phone a hotline rather than book a reading with a psychic.
Yeah.
And I find, hang on, a psychic will probably charge you less, and you could just do your research on that person because that person is trying to sell themselves or whatever. But I suppose it's hard for people to accept that sort of out of the box state, isn't it?
Yeah.
That have you? How has it sort of changed you then as a person going through this investigation process or experiences?
I don't know really how it's changed me. I'm a lot more open-minded.
Yeah.
Now, certainly. I mean, with the abduction phenomenon, for instance, when I was younger, I didn't believe it at all. No, but now I believe there's something happening to these people. I can't say there's aliens coming down and taking people from their beds at night, but people are certainly having these experiences, and mainstream science need to look to help these people.
So what sort of explanations then does sort of mainstream science offer these people?
Basically, when people wake up at night and they can't move, the first thing mainstream science will say is sleep paralysis. Now, basically, when you're in REM sleep, your body shuts down, so you do not, carry out your dreams. You're slightly paralyzed. This wears off as you start to wake up. People have woke up and they can't move. They're still in a semi-dream-like state, so basically that whatever they were dreaming might feel like it's come to life. They feel like there's a presence in the room. They can't move. It's a terrifying experience. I've had it myself.
Yeah.
I knew what it was. So, I just I was quite calm until I came out of it.
That's the advice that one of our other guests has offered as well. So thank you for confirming that, because a lot of people have contacted us about it.
Yeah.
Sleep paralysis is one of those things a lot of people have gone through. I remember we had about 100 odd hits on YouTube with it.
Yeah.
Be just that one alone answering that question. So thank you for confirming that. So if you are experiencing that, just sorry to sidetrack you, but I know a lot of people have asked about that. If you are experiencing that, then is it just a kind of case to stay calm and wait for the body to wake up naturally?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Right. So obviously, if the scientific explanation you were saying, then sorry to cut you off.
That's right. But then that doesn't solve the abductions when people are wide awake. They're driving in a car.
Yeah.
They see a craft. They pull over. Sometimes the car's cut out, and then they have this missing time, and they see themselves down the road. That's not sleep paralysis because you was wide awake at the time. Other things scientists have said is basically you might have high electromagnetic fields,
right.
Which is once again that's what they say about paranormal activity as well. There's a lot of
electromagnetic activity, yeah.
Because basically they've done research where they put these helmets on and had put into people's brains. They can get people to experience similar things.
Yeah.
But yet you don't get marks on your body from stuff like that.
No.
Bruises. This one abductee woke up with a handprint on the chest.
Man.
It's like they had a reaction to the hand.
Was it obviously a human hand? Or?
Nope, it wasn't. I think, if I remember correctly, it was 4 digits on the hand.
Do they remember straight away, or do they take time for those memories to resurface?
It depends on the person.
Right.
Some people remember everything. Some people don't. They basically, you've had, like I said, on the when they were driving, they might have seen a light. Next thing they know, they're might be half a mile down the road driving a car. They can't remember what happened in that time. That's why they call it missing time. Information does come through in dreams, and of course then if they look into it further they might have hypnotic regression.
I suppose one of the obvious questions you say about people driving down the road, if they can beam someone out of their car into their spaceship, why can't they put the car back where they found it? It's really interesting.
Well, basically, they haven't taken the car. They've taken you. You're put back, and you're basically in a trance-like state, starting driving down the road until you start remembering. So you're getting your own mind back, basically. Because a lot of people say they end up in like a trance-like state.
But like kind of coming out of anesthesia then.
Yeah. So it's not as if they have been put back from where they was. It's just when they start driving, they don't remember the first half a mile, or whatever it is.
That's madness. What types of obviously they report different beings and stuff. Could you tell us about the different types of beings that they've encountered?
The most common is especially in America, is the greys. You got the tall greys and the normal greys. 3.5 to 4 feet tall, or the tall greys, which could be up to like 6 foot tall, if not more. Reptilians.
Oh, our favourites.
Yes. You have the tans, which are very similar to greys, but the skin colour is different. You have the Nordics, which are very much look like human, but they tend to have blonde hair, blue eyes. In like the Nordic race, they tend to be the most common. Of course.
What, in the UK or?
In the UK, to be honest, there's a lot more mixture of species that are reported in the UK. In America, it tends to always be the
greys.
The greys. There's a lot more reports of the Nordics over here, but they're not really terrifying.
It's interesting because literally you can see the image of the grey alien has become almost like a pop culture icon, isn't it? If you want to cover something up and hide it in plain sight, it's a bloody good way to do it, mind. I used to have a nice big poster on my wall with a grey smoking a spliff saying "Take me to your dealer."
Yes.
Yeah. But what my point is, I guess, then, not the sort of belittling, but you can, even the fact that, like, for argument's sake, it's a computer brand that uses the grey alien face Alienware, for example. You can see it on posters. You see it on, a lot of even movies now and TV use the sort of grey alien image.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Absolutely everywhere.
What is actually known about the different types of races there are then?
In what way?
Like, has anyone communicated with them? Do they occupy different roles? If I was to sort of have an encounter with the tall greys compared to the Nordics, would there be a difference?
Well, the Nordics seems to be a lot more spiritual type beings.
Right.
A lot more like us, I don't mean spiritual like us, but they're a lot like us. They're here, basically, they always mention about our environment, how we're destroying our planet. They don't seem to be creating hybrids. The Greys, what's reported, seem to have their own agenda of creating alien-human hybrids. What purpose, don't know. But that is basically what they seem to be focusing on, is the genetic makeup of the human beings. Whereas the Nordics are really for the spiritual side.
Yeah.
They seem to be, what's reported, is trying to better ourselves. From what I've heard of the reptilians, they're a nasty piece of work.
We've had astral encounters with, and I suppose this is where, in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to do a show with, if you're still up for it, with a couple of you guys talking about the similarities between demonology, UFOlogy, and the paranormal. And because there's a lot of similarities between like the sort of reptilians, or like there's other names for like archons, or for demons or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot about them, and even like UFOs. There's Renaissance paintings of flying saucers.
Certainly is.
It is.
There's cave drawings of this crafts. You know, they go back tens of thousands of years, sightings of strange objects in the sky.
Right, have you ever seen that Ancient Aliens TV show?
Yes.
Have you seen the guy with a weird haircut?
Yes.
Ancient Aliens responsible for everything with him. It's like, you know, I find some of the researchers go a little bit too far. Like, did I tell you about David Wilcox, what happened to him?
Go on.
He literally went on, he had a really brilliant presentation. It lasted for about 4 or 5 hours. And it was absolutely fantastic. He was talking about, you know, different things people were seeing, the different races people they encountered with, and he went into sort of like, you know, what's happening with the planet, and different things about the sun, how the sun is changing over time, and all different things like that. And suddenly he just went off on one for the last hour, like a wrestler or something going after like an opponent, about how aliens are going to come down and beam us up in the 2012. And I think, now I wonder whether these people are fed certain experiences, right, to discredit them.
Yeah. Because
there is a link between encounters and psychic or spiritual experiences, as you've just said. So I wonder what you think of is a theory. It's just a theory I've got, that whether people have these experiences and because they're getting too close to something and suddenly then something happens. You know, 2012 happens. You know, a lot of people. I know we had a guy on the last show talking about, or a show a couple of weeks ago at least, talking about the consciousness shift, and I think a lot of the 2012 stuff has come from the people. To do with more of a awakening than a actual world spinning around off its axis, and unless we're in a holodeck right now, computer doors, nothing happened. But do you find that I find that some researchers get a bit more overzealous, and do you think it's like the human ego gets in the way, or do you think it's the more they're actually getting information that's they're misinterpreting them?
I think it's a mixture of both, and don't forget these people want to sell books and things, so they're going to dramatise it, they're going to want to get people hooked on this stuff, so the more extravagant thing that they can put out, they're going to sell more books, aren't they?
Yeah, I suppose so.
That's a lot of the problem in ufology, is things are dramatised just to sell books.
Gary Walters here on location with Lee Thomas from the Welsh UFO Research Network. I will get out my mind. I can't seem to get my tongue around this, sorry. You're listening to Worlds Beyond on Rhondda Radio. So, before the break, I do apologise, I did kind of cut you off. You were talking about the different types of encounters or different types of beings that people have reported encountering or encountering. And I cut you off talking about rogue researchers and holodecks.
Yes.
So sorry about that. So I was saying that the experience that we had, the being that we saw was like a sort of it looked a bit like a grey alien, but it was like about 6-7 foot tall.
Yeah.
So would that be like a tall white or a tall grey, or?
It's hard to say. Now, the tall whites, I don't think they've ever actually been reported to abduct people. Supposedly, these creatures are working with the US military.
Right.
But what Sam described about how she described them, it does sound like a tall white one. But these could be, you never know. She didn't see this being physically, did she?
No, well, the first experience with the two of them, there was literally like apparitions.
Yeah.
We were sat there on the bed. They kind of won me over by saying, they don't understand how we treat our children, because if a baby is on the bus crying and it's not your baby, you tend to get irritated by it, where that baby is obviously in pain.
Yeah. And
communicating the fact that it is in pain. So something like that was quite profound.
Yeah. For
anything that was, had a malevolent, or what we believed after a while was actually a malevolent intent. So, is there anything about that matches up to, obviously, any encounters with these?
Well, what was reported regarding the tall white ones is that they have an extremely strong bond with their children.
Right.
And one of the military personnel that was working with the tall whites, he was told by the tall white, if you touch one of our child, we will kill you. Now, he doesn't mean touch by hurting them, but if they go near them, they will kill you. You stay away from their children. They said to him, we love our children more than you love yours. Do you understand this?
So, how have people sort of, if it hasn't been an abduction, what types of other encounters have people reported?
Well, with the tall whites?
With any aliens, because I find it, the Nordics I also find quite interesting as well. But do they all abduct people, or is it different races have different encounters then?
Well, I don't really think the Nordics are so much. They're not abducting people like you would have with the Greys. They come in your bedroom and kidnap you in the night. That's a lot more like what you would class as like contactee, for instance. Not so much people being abducted. People tend to go with them with their own free will.
So they're asked them.
Yes, but whereas the Greys, what's reported is you got no choice.
Yeah.
They come for you whether you like it or not. Now the Greys, they don't seem to have any emotion.
Right.
Or what has been reported. When they have these hybrid children, they can't show these children any love. They often bring the abductee back and ask them to hold the child to show them some love, because they can't show love, but these hybrid children require, emotion from its parent, mother, or, So I don't know what the deal is with these hybrids, why they create them, whether they are a dying race and can't reproduce. It's been reported they could possibly be genetic robots. Basically, genetically engineered beings from a different planet that are sent here, like we send probes to Mars.
Yeah.
But their technology is way more advanced. They can actually produce, biological robots, and maybe these robots are taking a piece of humanity back to their planet. Yeah. Or whether you never know, they might be creating an army to invade us.
Excellent.
Who knows? I can't tell you.
I for one, welcome our dear overlords. What about the sort of what's a contactee, let's say, with the Nordics then? What sort of encounter would people have with them?
A lot of them people are taken on board a ship, but you're not forced to go,
right.
And it's more of basically them showing you that what humanity is doing is wrong, how we are destroying our planet, how not just the environment, but through wars and disease. And it's basically trying to get you, for the abductee to send a message that we need to change our ways.
Do they just pick people at random, or are they people who seem to have like a key job role or something? Or?
I don't know, to be honest, Jared. I mean, what's reported with the Greys, it tends to run in families.
Right.
So if your mother or father was abducted, the odds are that you would have been abducted.
Right.
But of course, that's not always clear cut. The Becky and Barney Hill case, as far as we know, it was just them. Same with Travis Walton, he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
But where you had that Brooklyn Bridge abduction, there was a history to it.
Right.
Like I said, what the good thing about that Brooklyn Bridge abduction is what it was witnessed, not just by people on the Brooklyn Bridge, but also you had supposedly the Secretary General of the United Nations and his 2 Secret Service bodyguards were witnessed this abduction, supposedly. Now, the Secretary General has not come forward to confirm this. But he hasn't denied it either. He has no comment.
So what about if someone was looking to start up sort of researching UFOs or wants to start his own group up, or maybe even get involved with maybe some of the work you're doing, or how would they go about doing that?
Well, lots of reading to start with.
Reading's good.
There's plenty of books. I mean, my very first book on UFOs was by Jenny Randall. She was a researcher for the British UFO Research Association.
Right.
Called UFOs and How to See Them.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was. That was my very first book. It's different these days. You've got so much on the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, the internet is, well, it's unbelievable for research. I mean, you've got access to a lot more stuff now than what I had when I was growing up. Especially with,
people that's like YouTube and Facebook and that sort of thing. You can actually talk to people directly.
Oh yes, that's right. Distance is no barrier now, and information is instant. Yeah. But then you have the negative sides of the technology we got. Mm-hmm. Just saw it on Yahoo News a couple of days ago of a flying triangle in Afghanistan.
Yeah, that was. I've seen that as well. For those watching, it was an actual bombing in Afghanistan, where someone had actually taken in or penciled in a UFO, made it look really. It was actually full. I think even the Daily Mirror picked it up.
Yes, yeah.
And it was actually a photoshopped UFO. So it was actually a bomb from one of from an actual jet, but the jet was taken out and the UFO was put in or something like that.
That's right.
Wasn't
Yeah.
It? So that why someone would want to do that, I don't know. It doesn't do anything to sort of prove the existence of UFOs, or it doesn't do anything to sort of prove. It doesn't do anything to anyone really.
No,
except
not at all.
Just to sort of cause an upset.
Yep.
To the families and the people involved in the actual bombing itself, and it doesn't matter where. I don't know what was actually bombed in there. I've not actually watched the video, to be honest with you. But you find out with the paranormal, though, there's loads of little things that you see a ghost on the camera, you think, oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
Oh, it's Photoshop.
Yeah.
And I think I'm glad I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I can create some lovely things in the edit, so we can put like nice bits of video together. But I don't do Photoshop. I can't do it. I just haven't learned. I suppose if I did sort of sit down and try and learn, I'd be okay at it. But I haven't sort of got on to doing that as of yet.
But that's the problem with because the technology of these days, you can't believe the videos and even the photographs that are sent to you. It's so easy to manipulate them.
Yeah. Whereas
back in the 60s, I know the pictures of UFOs weren't that clear, but the odds are they weren't faked. And if they were fake, you can normally tell they were faked.
What about like the Man in Black? There's another one we haven't.
MIBs. Here come the Men in Black. Yes. This certainly has been reported. Contact with Men in Black. Question is, who are they? Are they government? I don't know. There's actually a CCTV footage of two supposed Men in Black.
What do they look like?
They look like men dressed in black.
They wear hats too.
The footage. Like I said, there was actually some CCTV footage of two supposed Men in Black going to speak to someone who reported a UFO sighting. And they were a black suit. They had I think it was a long black raincoat type, and they had a hat on. They tend to be reported being very pale colour in skin, and they tend to look right through you.
The maddest thing is, right, there's, I think I've told you about this, is this character that Sam's actually picked up around us ever since we've been together. But again, it's been on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
Because I always found, have you ever seen Fringe?
No, I haven't watched that.
Fringe is, it basically was like the modern day X-Files. It was like an FBI agent, a mad scientist, and the mad scientist's son. And they basically investigate paranormal events, but stem from pseudoscience.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant show. It's a good fun. But one of the things that really sort of creeped me out was the fact that was the observers. Now, the observers go right the way through until the fourth season. They very rarely get involved, but they're always around in different. They're always around in different locations when things happen. So if like a key event happens, you can always pick up a photo of an observer.
Yeah.
Now people have actually gone around on YouTube now and actually picked out bald men with hats on. The look will have that kind of pale skin, look right through you, that kind of thing. And they've actually put in videos together, and they're like everywhere. It's really, it's kind of really. Obviously, these probably are just. You know, I got a mate who's bald and can dress him up in a suit and put a hat on him.
Yeah.
And he's got a pretty, he's got a pretty angry face. If you ever wanted to put one on for acting purposes, he's done a bit of acting for me before, actually. So we can get him to do that. But Sam didn't actually see the show, and she kept describing this very same thing you said, but it was more sort of astrally.
I don't know any when they had this astral wise. They tend to be physical in nature. Tends to be two of them. But they reported all over the world. It's not just the UK and America. They report all over Europe. They've been reported in Australia. Reported in South America. The only place I've not heard of any report of Men in Black, and that's in Asia. But you don't really get many UFO sightings coming out of China or Japan, to be fair.
Is that because they wouldn't be publicised?
Yeah, I think it's a cultural thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
And information coming out of China is scattered at best anyway.
And information going into China is scattered
Yes.
at best. It is. So, no, I just found it really sort of interesting with that experience and the parallels of it. What about, like, say, the photo? I've always seen the photo in, I think it was like 1960s. A guy took a picture of his little girl.
And you got a spaceman in the background.
Yeah, spaceman in the background. What's that all about?
Now, that's very interesting, because he was also visited by Men in Black.
Right.
And he actually asked him, where was the second spaceman? Or the second person? He said, what do you mean? He said, well, there was two of them. You took a picture of one. Where was the other one? He said, hang on, I didn't see anybody when I took the photo. But this Men in Black, they were asking for the second spaceman.
Can they, like, phase in out of reality or something? Like cloaking shield or something?
Your guess is as good as mine, Jared.
You're listening to Worlds Beyond with Jared Walters, and Lee Thomas is our special guest today. We're on location. Lee is the founder of the Welsh Mutual UFO. No, it's not the Welsh Mutual.
Welsh UFO Research.
I always get it like God. Right, we're going to sample this now. The Welsh UFO Research Network. By the time we come back for the last bit, I'm going to get that right by the end of the show, okay? So, Lee has just actually shown me, I'll repost this up, excuse me, I just dropped something. I'll repost this up on the page when the show goes out live. But he just showed me the security camera, the MIB, and that's just really creepy.
Yeah, it is.
It is. There's a documentary on there on YouTube, which I'm gonna watch later. We were talking about like different things you can do to sort of research and get started yourself. You were saying.
Yeah. So, like I said, the internet now is the main resource now. It's easy enough to set up your own website. Yeah. That's nice and easy. And there's well, I would say a lot of conferences about, but they seem to have died a death recently, the conferences. So, have you been to any UFO conferences? No. Well, I should clarify, not conferences specific on UFOs. I've been to conferences where UFOs are brought up. Right. There's a lot more, paranormal, other paranormal stuff involved. Right. But the one I always wanted to go to was that was run by the UFO magazine, but that finished when that closed down when what's his name? Graham Birchall died. So that was based in Leeds. It's a new magazine out now. It's an e-magazine called UFO Truth Magazine. Right. Basically, I think the magazine is $3.99. You download onto the e-reader or the computer. But he's setting aside money from each purchase to organise these conferences. Now, we done one last year, but I wasn't aware of it then. But there's another one this year coming up in August, I believe.
Where to?
It'll be up in Yorkshire. That's where this person's based. I'm not too sure where. If you just go into UFO Truth Magazine website, it'll be all the details on that. But yeah, a lot of them are based in Yorkshire. The old UFO magazine conferences were up in Leeds. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you heard of what's it called?
Magazine, right?
Oh, what's this magazine?
14 Times?
No. There's another UFO magazine that didn't last too long. UFO Matrix magazine.
I didn't remember that one.
That was only a couple of years back. They started off doing magazines. They was going to have a conference. It was up in Yorkshire again, I believe, and they was going to have Travis Walton.
Ah, right.
I bought a ticket. The magazine closed down, and the conference died a death. Didn't go ahead.
Yeah, did you get your money back?
Got my money back. Yes, pleased for that. But I would much rather have seen Travis. I was really looking forward to that. Yeah, but there's, like I said, the UFO Truth Magazine conference. I think it's August. I could be wrong. I'm not actually going, Mike. I haven't got any holidays available to go. But
if anyone is interested,
yeah,
then take a look at the UFO Truth Magazine. So, what sort of stuff do you have actually on your website yourself?
Basically, my website will give brief history of UFOs.
Right.
One, I'll say modern history, so basically going from the 1940s, from like the Foo Fighters, the Kenneth Arnold sightings, and I basically tell a little story of how it's evolved from then, and I've got on it about, of course, the Travis Walton abduction case, Betty and Barney Hill, the Phoenix Lights in Arizona.
Yeah, they were interesting, weren't they?
Yes, the Belgium UFO flap, which was a flying triangle, which was seen throughout Belgian area, chased by two F-16s. Got up on radar as well. Yeah, so basically my website will give information on that, information on things that I am up to at the moment. I haven't updated it for a while because I've been basically setting up my own e-magazine called the Welsh UFO Research Network Journal.
You're listening to Worlds Beyond. We are back with Jared Walters and Lee Thomas from the Welsh UFO Research Network. And I've done it!
You done it!
Round of applause! You're listening to Rhondda Radio. This is Worlds Beyond. Right, we had to take a quick short break there due to a few things being on location and a few things that were happening that we had to slightly take account of. So Lee, you have a new e-zine coming out.
Yes, that's right. I'm hoping to have it out on my website at the end of this month, as long as I can get my laptop up and running.
So what sort of things would people be able to expect from that?
Basically, it'll be I'll be pulling different articles off the internet, which I find newsworthy. So I'll be putting that in the first set part of the magazine. Any sightings that's been reported to me, I'll be putting that in, and any cases I'm working on, I'll be putting information of those cases. And if anybody wants to write in with their own sightings, of course, I can include that in the magazine as well.
You're very much welcome to publish, anything about your investigation with us, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
I'm sure Sam won't mind, but we'll ask her quickly after the show. So if anyone wants to check that, is it going to be a slight charge for it, or is it?
No, it'll be free to download.
So it's free to download and be available on PDF format.
PDF, that's right.
PDF format, which is all good for all the old ebooks, etc. So, what you said obviously on your website, it's a brief history of yourself, different classic cases, and that sort of stuff.
That's right, and some of the sightings being reported to me, I put that on their website as well.
Excellent. Well, we'll take a look. So it's www.wuforn.co.uk.
Spot on.
Excellent. And if any of you do want to get involved, just remember that the Facebook account, where we're going to put a link to Lee's website up on, and perhaps some of the different things. If you don't mind, I might expose some of the different things you put up there, maybe some pictures.
Yeah, that's fine.
If that's
yeah,
okay for people to get involved. And people can give, that's what we'll do. We'll get people to feedback on the pictures and see what they think. So the address for that is going to be www.facebook.com/spiritual worlds. You're listening to Worlds Beyond on Rhondda Radio. So, anything else that we need to cover?
You tell me, Jared. We covered quite a bit in
we have,
haven't we?
We have. We've gone over all of them. What about sort of? So how is sort of UFO culture sort of changing? Would you say? Yeah, are people becoming less open to it, more open to it?
Oh, certainly more open to it. I mean, it's in the news, in the mainstream news quite often now. Was before. It would never really get into the mainstream news. They still seem to ridicule it a bit, but it's certainly an improvement.
Yes. And
people are not so much afraid to report sightings anymore. There's still a bit of a stigma to abduction cases, but UFOs in general, people seem to be happy to report these sightings, and I think a lot more people now are in the frame of mind that they believe that aliens are visiting this planet.
So, what would you say to sort of people that are quite skeptical about these experiences?
Just look to the skies. I mean, the evidence is there. There's video evidence, there's photographic evidence, there's witness evidence, not just by the average Joe, but you got the military, you got police officers. You've got pilots, and pilots are trained observers. They know what's up in the sky. If they see something strange, you can guarantee it's something strange.
Yeah.
These are intelligent, highly trained people.
And anyone who's actually going through an abduction scenario, what would your advice be to them?
My advice would certainly be to contact our support group, because they really do need support.
Right.
I wouldn't say don't report it to myself. By all means, report it to myself, but I'm not experienced in abduction cases, and I certainly would not want to do a person any wrong. I would rather send them somewhere which I know they would get the help they would need.
Yeah.
And the support groups is certainly the way to go.
Excellent. And would you find that would you be interested in doing a Skywatch at some point?
Certainly, yes.
What we could do, I've got another friend he's actually asked me if we fancy doing one maybe in the next week or two, if you've got any times free, up on the top of the mountain behind Cumberland Park.
Yeah.
So, are you free at whenever you're free, what we could do is take the cameras up there and perhaps do a little short for the radio show, if you're happy to do that.
Okay, I'll have to let you know. It won't be on. I won't be free on the weekend for another month.
Right.
But weekdays. So basically, the way when I work, I'll have like a Monday, Tuesday off, Wednesday, Thursday off, and a Friday, Saturday, Sunday off work.
Right.
Okay. But this weekend coming up now is my weekend off, but unfortunately, I've got plans.
Fair enough. What we'll do, we'll see if we can get. We'll see if we can do it all, maybe all in one. We'll do the panel and then perhaps do the Skywatch afterwards. So, we'll sort that out for an upcoming show. We are going to be doing this for an upcoming show, guys. Is we're going to have Lee. We've actually had every member of the panel on the show now. We've got Lee, obviously representing the UFOlogy. Dave, I think, has got a brief history of the sort of demonology side of it, and we've got obviously Richard, who deals more with the paranormal, but also has a very keen interest in the UFOs. And I think both of them are quite keen to meet yourself and talk about the sort of experiences and share different things that they might have researched and that sort of thing. So that definitely be interesting. Sort of if we can get all three of you guys up involved on a Skywatch or
that'll be good.
An interview and that sort of thing. If any of you would like to contact Lee, the email address on your website?
It's Lee Thomas at WUFORN.co.uk.
Excellent. So if anyone wants to get, if you've had a sighting and you'd like to report it, or gone through an experience, if you can't find it, or if there's any problems, just send us a quick message and we'll forward you straight on to Lee or any of the appropriate person that will be able to help you. You've been listening to Worlds Beyond. Lee, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Jared.
It's no problem. We'll look forward to having you back again someday.
Yes, look forward to it.
Yeah, alright then. Well, thank you very much. Take care. And it's back to Jared now in the studio, who's probably going to round the show up or do something silly, because it's Jared from where I am now in about a week or 2 weeks' time. Take it away, Jared.